Hi, this is Annalise Antoinette. I'm here today speaking with my friend Marty Cowan. I am super excited to be here with Marty because Marty has recently published her first book. She is a cookbook author. Her book is Table to Trail, and it was published mid-October of this year. Marty started writing it right as quarantine started, so earlier this spring of 2020. So Marty, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anna. I wore my special flannel for you.
Perfect. Yes.
It's my
so,
fancy one.
so Marty, your book is about being a plant-based portable book of recipes for the
Yes,
trail, and it also
yes.
transfers obviously into the kitchen. So, can you speak to us a little bit about the process by which you started writing this book? And I'd love to hear some insider scoops on this. Tell me about this, please.
Sure. So COVID hit February-ish, right, of this year. And I'm also a yoga teacher. Classes were getting canceled. Life was getting canceled. So I just got to thinking, I think we all had some time to reflect. And I decided, all of my passions I wanted to combine into one thing. And I'm like, what's the one thing? And after thinking about it for a while, I just thought it's a book for sure. And it's going to be a book of plant-based portable recipes for day hikers with a little bit of yoga sprinkled in. So that's how I got started with that. And it just blossomed from there. Like it was a mad dash. It was a sprint. It was madness. It was a blast. It was really hard sometimes, but it wouldn't quit me. That book, that idea, as much as I tried to tell myself I wasn't good enough to do it, what do I know? All those things regarding and surrounding self-worth, all of that came back in, as it does with me sometimes, and probably some other people can relate to that too. So I would hear that, but then I'd be like 2 seconds later, I wonder if I should put, cinnamon in that recipe. Like it just wouldn't quit. Like it was such an amazing experience for me.
Well, I am so proud of you for doing this. I personally, when you first mentioned it, I had zero doubt. I was super excited for you. And it's funny to hear that you had some personal doubts, but it actually turned out, I think, amazing. You've been a vegan now over 10 years, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, something I have always found very inspiring about you is you are so compassionate with not just obviously the animals you're not eating, you're compassionate with people. And you are one of the inspirations in terms of having a plant based diet because I'm going to use a stereotype here, but I call them the angry vegans. So, anytime you talk about eating something, a particular angry vegan will just kind of go into a rant and a rave and make you feel guilty and you have to do things a certain way, boom, boom, boom. Whenever I am around you and we meet for lunch, you're always just so quiet about it and you make zero judgment. You don't push your opinions on anyone. Can you tell us a little bit about how that sort of your veganism blossomed and how you're able to carry yourself in a way that is more of a shining example versus beating someone over the head with it, basically?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for that. It was definitely a journey. I've had some hard times with that too, and I think it's a really great question. Um, I'll just start out by saying, you know, prior to adopting a plant-based lifestyle, I was in a place for over 20 years of body image issues. I wanted to weigh a certain amount. My whole life goal was to be thin. And fast forward to about 2007, 2008, when I really started to take a look at food and how uh, it was nourishing me or not nourishing me. I really felt like there was this road in front of me that forked off in two directions. And one direction was disease, unhappiness, and the other direction was, um, this journey with um, food becoming the positive force in my life, as opposed to treating it like I'm negotiating with it. If I do this, then I can do this. And none of that has ever worked for me. And I say that from a really personal place, because some people weigh themselves every Friday at 7 a.m. and that works for them. And that's awesome. For me, the scale was an enemy. And it led to a lot of, like, I feel like pretty unhealthy habits and thinking. So when first I adopted a vegetarian lifestyle, and then I realized I needed to go a little further with that. So I dropped the dairy. And that was sort of a big culprit in my world. And I did it for really personal reasons. There's other reasons, such as animals. I love animals, and I want them to be treated humanely. And I don't want to eat them, and the earth as well. So there's other reasons too, but really first and foremost was my foundation was crumbling. And so I really wanted to strengthen that. And by putting foods that worked for me, that were healthy for me, and were fun to make, was just the beginning of this really wonderful journey for me. So I was really happy about that. So to go to your question in regards to like being, maybe this angry vegan, or, people that really show anger and frustration and passion when they are backing up their own personal eating preferences. I was really fortunate to learn a lesson early on. And I'm not saying these people have not learned a lesson at all. I'm just saying this is all from my perspective. I was probably about a year into a plant-based eating lifestyle. And I had told someone really special to me, the person is important to me, and a person that I respect, that I was eating this way. And instead of that person being happy for me, I got like this finger wagged in my face, like, you should be careful, you don't know what you're doing. And I was crushed. I was really sad about that, because and this person didn't know this either, that was saying this to me. I just dug myself out of this 20-plus-year-old hole of living, not really terribly kind to myself. And I was disappointed. I was sad. I was mad, you know, and we worked it out. We had conversations, and I think both of us, it was very much attached to the ego for both of us. Like, we were both trying to take this higher road, like, well, I just want you to be careful, and I hear you. And, in my head, I was thinking, that was really shitty what you said to me, and I'm pretty mad about it. So I had to process that. And I realized at the time, I am not a debater. I never will be. Very few times, I can probably count on one hand, I've tried to argue something, it never works out. I'm not good at it. It brings a lot of negativity and toxicity into my body and into my soul. And I can't do it. I just can't. I know there's people out on the front lines trying to prove their point, with animals and with the earth and all that. So what works for me is the goodness of it, sharing recipes, sharing joy, and being really compassionate for other people's perspectives on their journey. I could be completely judged right now, as from a vegan standpoint, because I wear smart wool, under layers, for my winter sports and winter activities and stuff like that. That's an animal product. So that's just an example, of, we have a vegan, or not vegan, we have a leather couch in our family room. It's not something I'd go out and buy right now, but we have one. So I feel like we're all in different places in our journeys, and it doesn't comfort me. It doesn't do me any good. I don't feel just, at all, judging other people or trying to prove a point. To me, it's like, let's find what we have in common, because that's what's really awesome. And the person that happened to me, I was saying in the beginning, we have absolutely worked it out. It was never really a big issue, but it was a major lesson for me, and I'm really, really grateful for it.
Well, I'm kind of grateful too because you've really been a beautiful example of conducting yourself with quiet grace and just leading by your positivity. And you're super healthy, Marty. I'm going to share with everyone how you basically hike like at least 5 times a week on beautiful trails. In fact, throughout this book, it's filled with every single recipe. If tell me if I get this wrong, every single recipe you went out onto a different trail to showcase one of the recipes in the book. What is the furthest you traveled? Tell me about any exciting experiences you had. What can you share about that process of getting out there and having these plant-based meals on the trail?
Oh, thank you. That's such a good question. When I was conceiving this book, I just was like, I'm gonna do 50 trails. I'm gonna do 50 recipes. It is on. And it was so much fun. And I've done lots and lots of local stuff, but also, we've packed it up. We rented a teardrop trailer. As far as the state of Colorado goes, the furthest we went was Gunnison, which is, I don't know, it's about 5 hours south of Fort Collins here. And so I made a deal with my family. I said, we're gonna do vegan all weekend long, except for s'mores. That was the negotiation there. And it was so much fun. Everything that we made in Gunnison in an outdoor kitchen in a teardrop trailer is in the book. And that was really fun. We also have gone out to Utah, and Wyoming and other places. So, but as far as the state of Colorado goes, Gunnison, I believe, was the furthest that we went, and that was super fun. That was my first time, and it was beautiful.
Well, your pictures in here are absolutely beautiful. And something I appreciate about both the layout and the recipes, your recipes are very doable. I'm looking at the various ingredients, and they're all ingredients that most of us have in our cupboards. So I appreciate that because one of the frustrating things about opening up a cookbook, especially one that feels a little bit maybe outside of our comfort zone that we might not be used to, are these like exotic ingredients, and your ingredients are ones that I can find in the grocery store. So thank you for doing that. I also appreciate in your layout you have a very readable font, which is like a super important requirement on my own part. Your font is highly readable. You have a picture of each dish on the page, and like we said, and there's a picture of it on the trail as well. And each recipe, there's one recipe per page, so it doesn't like spill over onto the next page, so we can just keep it open and have it looking at it. So from a personal like aesthetic standpoint, I love it. You also include really fun things at the end, like a coconut scrub and a cool towel wrap that you can carry with you in a thermos. So those things are fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about the logistics of writing a book? Because I know so many people have this dream of becoming an author. You made it happen. Can you talk to us a little bit about the financial costs involved and the time that you input?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good question. Thank you for the compliments of the structure and the font. I've thought a lot about that. Um, and the funny thing is, like, I was talking about this mad dash, this sprint I was on, and I was thinking in my head, like, as I'm cooking recipes and stuff, how am I actually going to do this? I don't know. And I would just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm like, I guess I'll figure it out when I figure it out. I think it depends on your personality, like how structured you want to be with this. Like, I'm going to research how to do this prior to do this. Or if you're a raving nut job like me, you just start. You just go and start running as fast as you can. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way to go about it. There are a lot of resources online. I went through a particular self-publishing site called Ingram Spark. They have a ton of resources and videos on there that you can look at and start to plan. I would say highlight your strengths, what you can do to save money. I would also say, without a doubt, hire a copy editor. If there's anything anybody can take away from this, is hire a copy editor. You definitely need a second set of eyes, and someone that knows you really well would be good, or maybe getting that opportunity to get to know that copywriter first so they can understand your thinking, and how you do things, and they kind of know your brain, and the process behind what you do. This is also going to be, different for fiction or nonfiction. That's a different this is a different beast altogether, but it is something to think about. If you can plan some kind of structure and do as much research upfront, during the process, or at the end of the process. What I really didn't know was how I was going to submit this thing, how I was, any of those technical areas I wasn't entirely sure on. You need a graphic designer, somebody to lay the book out. That's something I have a little bit of experience in. So I went ahead and laid the entire book out myself. If you need photos, a photographer, things like that, those are going to be your heavy hitters. As far as the book, you could probably do a book, especially a black and white, book, like a fiction or nonfiction book, pretty inexpensively. You would have to, figure out what you're going to do for that, how this is going to be laid out. You could probably pay someone to do that. It may not be quite as expensive, because the cookbooks are going to be a lot more visually intensive as far as time and things like that. So you'll need to assign an ISBN number, which is an International Standard Book number, and get that rolling. So if you go onto Ingram Spark, or you can go onto another self-publishing site, they will and should have all the things that you need. You can always fire me a question too on Instagram or Facebook, and I'd be happy to share anything further about my experience. I think everybody has a book inside of them. I think everybody's got a contribution. And I really, really feel like if I did it, anybody can. It was crazy, and it was madness. But it was pure joy. I'm so happy I did it. I'm so happy I didn't listen to those little negative voices in my head. I'm just so thankful I did it. There were times that were really pretty frustrating, technically speaking, especially towards the end. It's just one of those things I had to work through. I had to dig myself out and work through. Lots of tears, lots of wanted to throw things. But I knew, with some deep breaths, some yoga, some meditation, I would get to that place where I really wanted to be. And so that was a lot of the process.
How many hours would you say you put into the book as a total? I don't mean the hours spent hiking, but the physical writing at your computer hours, maybe including the graphic design aspects, maybe not, but kind of a general ballpark area. What do you think that would be?
Oh gosh, definitely several hundred, I would say. Just recipe development, researching, test kitchens, trials and errors. There was definitely a lot of time. It was full time for me, pretty much. I would say definitely a 40-hour-a-week job for sure. And then, I have a family. We have 2 teenage boys and 2 dogs, and I have a husband. So, that I couldn't stop doing laundry and the other things that I need to do, because it's just all about that balance with that. And they were really good about it. I have to say, they were really, really supportive. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of hours for sure, but it's all stuff I love and enjoy. So it never seems like work. And there's also, with trails and getting out there, there's also cross training too. I don't include that at all really as part of my book, but it's part of my life. Trail hiking is such a joy. And I know it's exercise, but I don't really think of it as exercise. So I'm jump roping, I'm doing all kinds of different kinds of things to make that hiking experience even more joyful. I don't want to be like, oh man, my quads are killing me. So I'm doing drop squats like a lot so that I can make sure that that hike is as enjoyable as humanly possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point because the stronger you are, the safer you can be because you can get in and out with the energy to do it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like quarantine was actually a really good time for you to do this as well.
Yeah.
What would you say, just kind of ballpark figure, if you had to throw a number out there, could someone realistically do a black and white fiction novel for under $2,000? Or are we really looking more like 8,000 and more?
Well, it depends on what the copywriter and what the graphic designer, what they're charging. Um, I had a personal connection with a media content expert, editor, writer who had the time um, to help me with this. So I paid her, separately. We didn't even really negotiate a price. So I don't even really know what the going rate is. And for a graphic designer, I can just say from the cookbook, that was a lot of hours. Um, so I feel like they would probably have to give you an idea of what they would charge for that. I mean, if I had to throw a number out there, it would be a few $1,000s for sure each. Um, and there's also miscellaneous costs too. Not just with like gas and things like that, but equipment, groceries, all those things. So for me, with a cookbook is going to be probably considerably more expensive than it would for a fiction book. Um, but they do offer you templates on at least on the Ingram Spark site, and you can use that, and you could truly do it yourself. Pay someone to do the cover art, and bam, you're done. I would certainly, bring on an editor or someone you really, really trust, that can guide you. But yeah, you could do it really pretty inexpensively.
Thank you. Okay, so
Yeah.
back to the trail stuff. Do you have any fun stories or anecdotes or weird things that happened while you were writing this book, like out on the trail?
Yeah, that's such a good question. There are times when I feel so sure about something. I'm like, all these ingredients individually make so much sense, and putting them together, oh gosh, that's going to be so good. I can't wait to eat that on the trail. So I go out there, I hike for a while, I'm ready to eat, and it is not good. Um, so so table to trail is really about foods that work on the trail. And there's so many that do, but there are a few that really, really don't. And I had just, this portobello mushroom cap sandwich I thought would be so good on the trail, make it all the time. And it was disgusting. And I was so hungry. I think I ate the bun. And I was like really sad. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. But that's the way it goes. I did a big hike. Um, out in the Big Thompson Canyon, and I brought some spring rolls that I made, some homemade vegetable spring rolls, and they were really bad. They were really bad. So all you can do is laugh, bring extra food just in case. But those kinds of what I call trail fails are really sorry about that. Are really just lessons that are important, to have and to learn from. Because I feel like if we don't learn from it, we're not going to be able to move on and bring those, gems of wisdom with us.
Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about or anything that hasn't come up in any of your other interviews that you wish kind of would be talked about?
Ooh, I don't know. Hmm. I would just say one thing we never covered was for people that are not nature people that are like, I don't hike. Um, so this isn't for me. I'd say the first step is to sit in a comfortable chair by a window and open the window and have a cup of tea, or, your morning coffee, or, a meal, a light snack or a meal, anything, and get a little dose of that fresh air. Um, and put the phone down and put your distractions away. And then maybe go for a walk and have that cup of tea sitting outside on your front porch, if you have a front porch, or somewhere. And then maybe thinking about a little light snack and a little walk outside to maybe a local designated natural area, or a short trail, something like that. And just start really, really small, and see if that nature can get a hold of you and start to bring you your mind and body and spirit in places you never really imagined before. Because a lot of people don't hike, like, ever. And I never really did either. So I just wanted to share my personal joy, in connection with the earth, to other people, and bring some good food. Food is awesome. And if all you've got time for is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a Cliff Bar, that's fine. Take it out. I think getting out into nature is really the most important thing. But if you start to think about the process and start thinking about okay, I've got an hour and a half to hike tomorrow. What can I do ahead of time? Well, I can clean and rinse and trim the kale and maybe marinate it. I can boil some pasta. I can do a lot of things, make some soup, and plan ahead. And then, I've got soup for later. I can actually freeze some. So all of a sudden you're like, now that you start to learn a process and these strategies, these cooking and planning strategies, that little individual container of soup that you froze, can be set out in the morning before your hike. And you can thaw it, you can heat it, and then put it and go. And you didn't do anything. It was just in the freezer. So that's a really a passionate point for me. So thank you for asking, Anna.
Well, I really appreciate that you emphasize that it doesn't have to be this binary thing of we're either doing absolutely nothing or we're hiking 14ers. And
Right.
I love that you're really just about getting outside and incorporating some movement and some delicious food. So I absolutely love that. Marty, I so appreciate you taking the time out of your very, very busy day to be here. Um, Marty's book, Table to Trail, is $24.99. It's available at Amazon.com. Anyone that's in Fort Collins and is able to frequent one of the shops here, it can be found locally in the store at Savory Spice in Old Town Fort Collins. It can also be found at the Cupboard in Old Town Fort Collins, as well as in R.E.I. So, Marty, it's super exciting that your books are there. You're also going to be in Savory Spice this Friday from 1 to 3
Yeah.
p.m., right?
Yes, 1 to 3 p.m. Thank you for remembering that. You're so kind. I've invited all my local friends to just swing by and say hi. They're very, very COVID aware there, and do things in such a way that makes it really safe for everyone. And if you are not local, I'll be doing a super quick little interview at 1:10 p.m. Mountain Time. To like 1:20, just quick. And I believe it's going to be on their Facebook, Savory Spice Fort Collins Facebook page. And I will, it's actually on my Instagram site, the information, and my Facebook page too. So thank you.
Perfect. And your Facebook page is table space 2 space trail, table to trail on Facebook.
Right.
Your Instagram is at table to trail. And your website, which of course includes all of your social media links, is tabletotrail.com. Marty, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. I always appreciate your food. For anyone that's interested, I'm just going to share that every time Marty and I meet up, she always brings me some amazing food that she just happened to make that morning, and I love it.
You are so sweet, Anna. I can't thank you enough. We don't have enough people in this world like you who fill our soul cups up to the rim. Every time we talk and get together, I feel like I'm a little bit taller. So thank you for your love and kindness and friendship. I adore you.
I adore you. Thanks so much, Marty. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank
And
you
check
for
out Marty's
watching.
website. Goodbye.
Bye.